Hello everyone, I'm Michelle Abad, multimedia reporter at Rappler, and I'm coming to you from Singapore, the Philippine Embassy here at Singapore, where they just finished up operations for the day on the first day of the overseas election. So just to recap, today, April 13, is the first day of the month-long period for overseas voters to cast their votes. And what's very unique about this election is that most of the 1.2 million Filipinos who are registered to vote overseas will be casting their votes online or via the internet. So where I am now in Singapore, the post here is assigned to implement online voting. And so that is what they are implementing here today, and also what I witnessed today. So even if there is internet voting, there were some Filipinos who still needed to come here to the embassy and cast their votes. They needed help from the embassy officials to walk them through the process, since not everybody was tech savvy, especially those who were elderly. So again, there are 1.2 million Filipinos overseas who are slated to vote via the internet this election. And here in Singapore, there are over 67,000 registered overseas voters who are supposed to or are expected to pre-enroll and also to cast their votes. And in Singapore, it is actually the fourth most vote-rich post, which means consular posts, the Philippine embassies and consulates. So under the jurisdiction of the Philippine Embassy in Singapore, it is one of the most vote-rich in the world. It's the fourth after Dubai, Riyadh, and Hong Kong. So voting started this morning here at 8 a.m., just like in the other posts everywhere across the world. It will start at 8 a.m. local time, so I was here just before voting opened at 8 a.m. And then so, it was a little ceremony here. There wasn't a lot of people. It was mostly just the staff of the embassy, but the director himself of the Office for Overseas Voting, Director Ian Gionanga, he was here to witness the first opening of the voting period here in Singapore, and also COMELEC Commissioner Maria Casingal was also here to witness the opening of the voting here. So Director Gionanga from the Office of Overseas Voting expressed excitement about, finally, this is the first internet voting mechanism that to be implemented in Philippine elections. So they expressed excitement, and he also put that into the context of Singapore here, since there are local regulations that say that Filipinos, or actually anybody who lives here, cannot easily participate in a political gathering. And so Director Gionanga was happy to have this election here and make it easier, so what they intend to be easier for the overseas voters, so that they could, quote unquote, bring the election closer to Filipinos here in Singapore, for example, who might not be able to always be politically open and exercise their political rights here in this host country. So Ambassador Medardo Macaraig was also happy to welcome the voters here, and he said that he was also expecting a higher turnout this election, or hoping for a higher turnout now that internet voting is available, and the Filipinos who are registered here and anybody and anywhere in the world can cast their votes online wherever they are, even if they're just at work. If they are domestic workers, since there are a lot of domestic workers here in Singapore, as long as they have internet connection and they have a gadget that has a camera, they will be able to cast their votes as long as they pre-enroll, and of course are registered voters here in Singapore. And also, that's also related to the whole reason why the COMELEC is implementing internet voting in the first place, is because they want to increase turnout, which has been historically low. And actually the highest turnout that the COMELEC has received for overseas voting is only just around 40%. And that was in 2022, so the last election during the pandemic, and that's highest ever. So that's to note there. So they hope that with overseas voting, where Filipinos don't have to have the issue of going far to the embassies if they live far away from the embassies and consulates, that will no longer be an issue. Hopefully here with the overseas election. So all they have to do is have the internet voting mechanism in their hand, and they would be able to cast their votes. And then so here in the embassy, for a few moments of the day, they also had enrollment enrollment support sessions for those who needed help. And so, there were tips on how to make a strong password. There were navigations on what to do with, how to receive the OTP, how to input the OTP. There were some issues here that when they were trying to register with their phone numbers, there was late OTP, so some of the voters had to come in here and inquire what to do since they weren't getting an OTP. So those were some of the things that we observed here. And then, they really discussed here how to use the system and how to first to pre-enroll and then to finally cast their votes. And so the embassy assessment, they were not allowed to give an interview just yet, the staff here, the SBEI. They weren't allowed to give interviews yet, but we did talk to them a little bit, and then they talked about how they were generally happy with the first day of the turnout, although they cannot give or disclose figures at this moment of how many voted today based on COMELEC rules. And they also wanted to try their best to make sure that people don't have to go here personally. Because they did try to enforce as much as possible that they don't have to take the trouble out of the day. The OFWs don't have to take trouble out of their day to come here when internet voting really is possible at home. So they actually put out who wants to sign up for enrollment support, and then they had to filter it from there. So whoever had simpler concerns, like for example, they don't know what the link is, and they wanted to come here to know what the link is, but instead what the embassy did was just simply send the link. So problem solved, and they didn't have to come here instead. And there were also some elderly folks here who were not technically savvy, and they wanted to help, and they wanted support here. Behind me also, I cannot pan the camera right now, but actually this wall over here is a special kiosk that the embassy has set up. It's a cubicle actually. It has a curtain in front, and it's for, it's for people who were persons with disabilities, pregnant women, elderly people who might not have also a phone or any gadget that can help them vote. So there's a laptop in here, and there's a ring light also. So like they can also use that to pre-enroll and also cast their votes. And the embassy also and the Office of Overseas Voting has always maintained the security. It's been very difficult to it is very difficult to hack the system. The other day, the COMELEC said that they blocked 75,000 attempts to hack the system. And I also was able to speak to some of the voters here, and some of them told me, they were happy with how the embassy was able to help them, but they actually still support or they actually prefer the old system where at least they get the feel of filling out a ballot and putting it into a machine. And, even they didn't actually mind that there were long lines before, as long as, they actually had the process of filling out a ballot. So perhaps it seemed more real to them. It's a new process, so everybody is still getting used to it, and perhaps now they might not prefer it for now, but even if they were happy that they were able to vote today, they do also prefer the old system of personally filling up a ballot. And there was also one voter that I spoke to who, of course, has her political motivations, because she told me that she was a supporter of former President Rodrigo Duterte, who was recently arrested and detained at the International Criminal Court for alleged crimes against humanity. And so, this election comes after that. And, she told me that she felt motivated to support candidates that were endorsed by the former President Duterte. And so that was she wanted, that was one of the factors for why she was pushed to vote today, even after all of the hassle, and even though she prefers the old system. She wanted to vote today because she felt motivated to support candidates that were endorsed by former President Duterte. And so, as of today, almost 48,000 Filipinos have pre-enrolled for the overseas election, the internet voting rather, and that's 48,000 out of 1.2 million. So that's only around 4% of the expected Filipinos abroad who are expected to vote online and cast their votes in the month-long period. But still, there's 1 month to go. It's the first day of the overseas election period, and so the COMELEC, of course, is still hopeful. Our officials here are still hopeful that the internet voting will get better. More people will enroll, but of course, they also have the reminders to please not delay it until the very last minute. So that is my updates for today, Rappler's updates for today on the first day of overseas voting. Again, I'm Michelle Abad, multimedia reporter at Rappler, and I'm coming to you from